Not only was my level considered to be quite high, but Will's level was also considered to be significant for a baby of, at the time, 9 months old. His levels were about 3 times what Sam's were at the time.
At first we were in shock when our doctor told us that if it was his baby, he wouldn't return to the house with the baby. And we knew instantly what we had to do was no longer live there.
The doctor advised us that due to the levels, it's likely he was getting some form of exposure in the environment that he was in. The UN has actually classified this chemical as of concern as a carcinogen.
He hasn't been in the backyard. He hasn't sat on the grass in his backyard his whole life, because that's a pathway of exposure. He's lived his first 9 months inside a house, not being able to play with the animals, not being able to crawl on the grass. There's nothing more we can do to limit his exposure other than to leave and stop him breathing the air in that area.
This chemical is actually still spreading into the environment now.
I trusted that if I followed the health authorities' guidelines that I would be limiting his exposure, and now that we've found out that's not the case, and finally the blood tests prove that we could do everything the health authorities told us to do, but we could not stop him getting exposed. I hate to think if we'd not had access to these blood tests, what his levels would be like in a few years' time.
The chemical is not here naturally. The chemical has only arrived here as a result of what the Department of Defence have used as a firefighting foam. And there's a lot of concerning evidence that they continued to use that foam for a long period after when the manufacturer informed them they shouldn't do so because it wasn't safe.
The only treatment for this is limiting exposure. Our doctor has also told us that William's levels are already in a category where he needs monitoring for things like his thyroid, so we now have to take him for further blood tests to actively monitor this. And these chemicals will be in his body for at least the next 10 years. There's no way to get them out. The authorities tell us that the chemical will stay in the environment for 100 years or more. The chemical does not break down. It moves easily through water and it will remain in our bodies for at least the next 10 years. There's no way to remove it once it's in your bloodstream.